Hello guys and welcome back to today's video. Today we're back with 8.3.4 for all paths, the best champs to use, the counters of the bosses, and a full guide to everything. Hopefully you guys are enjoying these videos and they are helping you out a ton. If they are, please leave a like and comment down below who you're using for these paths, how you found the paths. Obviously, previously on the channel already, you will see that the the Act 8 100% exploration rewards are up. So if you haven't watched that video, go back and check that one out, and we'll jump straight into 8.3.4. So we'll start with probably the easiest path, but it's very dependent on the champs that you've got. If you've got lots of Rupture, then the one beginning with Masacre isn't that tricky, especially given that it's a weapon node. The one beginning with Elsa Bloodstone is good if you've got a lot of mutant champs with passive prowesses, so your Key Prides, Bishops, Saurons, Toads, Apocalypse, Havoc. And then this path is useful if you've got skill champs with a lot of bleeds. Or access to slow. So we'll start here, we'll go through them all, and then you will be able to know which is easiest for you. So whenever a skill attacker inflicts a bleed, they also inflict a non-stacking slow. So for this path, the slow is important because it's got Footloose, so every time they gain or they perform a special attack, they gain an evade buff and a unstoppable buff for 7 seconds. This is pretty useful because you can't nullify or stagger these evades and unstoppables because of MP Real Defiance, which we've come across already. So you can either bring in a champ with slow, so these can be any class champ with slow, or you need a skill attacker who inflicts a bleed. So good champs for this when you look along the path. A slow does help for this Hulk, he's a bit annoying. It also helps for the Juggernaut and the regular Hulk on this side. Best champions, I'd say, if you've got champs with bleed, it just keeps that slow a bit up for sure because it's a passive. This can be Nick Fury is awesome for this path. Black Panther was the one I used for this path. I used Jabari Panther because I've got her as a 7-star. Mole Man works well. Black Cat is also another one who's very nice. And then champs with access to slow, as I said, also work, but these cannot be skills. You can have She-Hulk, Red Guardian, given his new buff and that massive damage. Shang-Chi, obviously, I used him as well for this path, so I went with a couple champs I had with slow and a couple champs who inflicted bleeds. Silk, Spider-Gwen, Photon if you've got Human Torch, and Human Torch if you've got Photon. They work quite nicely for this path. So like I said, nothing too tricky on that first path. I don't think that these paths are too challenging. They do have bigger health pools than 8.1 and 8.2, but that path for sure isn't too tricky. Then we've got the one beginning with Elsa Bloodstone. So whenever a mutant attacker activates a striker, they gain an indefinite prowess passive, increasing their special attack by 200%. But these are consumed at the end of a special attack. So here you definitely want relics. So you definitely want a striker, and you have to have champs with prowesses because of Special Connoisseur, where they take 90% reduced damage, except from special attacks while you've got a prowess. So you do need to have mutants for this path. Other paths, other little nodes on here. Every time you trigger a buff, it's immediately nullified. So champs with regular prowess and not passive prowess, as previously mentioned, will work, but sometimes occasionally they'll get nullified, and then that buff that prowess will be removed. You do get 125% fury for this path on mutants, so that helps out a lot as well. Good champs for this path. Key Pride, Bishop are two of the mainstays, the really good ones. Danny Moonstar, very useful for this as well, being a new champ. Really, any champ with prowess, any of the mutant champions with prowess, especially passive, that will help you out a lot. You can use like your Storms, You Storm Pyramid X, Gambit, Professor X, Magneto, but remember with some of those, it will be one of the prowesses will be nullified. For Magneto, say, it's not that big a deal, but for Professor X, it's quite a major one because you're only getting sort of 2 at a time with him, but with Magneto you can get sort of up to 8 or 9 at a time. Difficult defenders on here. Really, you've only got Rhino, and that's only when he dashes. He's unstoppable. So if you know that, it should be a cakewalk. Quake can be easy. Just don't constantly hold your block so she's charging her heavy, and you should be okay. As I said, Kitty Pryde, Danny Moonstar, Bishop, they're just massive MVPs for this path. And then finally, we have the Masacre path. So a weapon node is always a little bit easier, I think. But whenever the attacker is inflicted by power burn or drain, the defender inflicts a rupture passive. So you've got disarms by using your striker. When unarmed, they take 200%, or their physical resistance is reduced by 200%. So really, they take 100% more damage from physical. And to capture it, you do need a special 2 knockdown. While ruptured, or while the defender is ruptured, they do take a 200% increase on attack. So you can go to again, as I always say, disarm it as soon as possible, and in this case, I would say just capture it as soon as possible because you've got that rupture vulnerability, so that you can either bring in champs with lots of power burn or drain and inflict with rupture passives all the time, or bring in champs who just have ruptures. So your Werewolf by Nights, Rintra, Spot, Scorpion with the pre-fight ability choice, Spider-Man 2099. So those champs do work. Or you can bring in champs who power drain. So again, this will be a few more mystics. So you're thinking more of a Doctor Doom here. A lot of tech attackers. So Ant-Man Future, Iron Doom, Warlock. You've got an absolute ton of champs to use for that. For that path, you can go 2 different ways. I would recommend going with champs who can capture the node, but also have lots of ruptures on. Like I said, Werewolf by Night, Tigers, those type of champions, because of the 200 increased attack when the champion is ruptured. On the path, not really. You don't really have many difficult defenders. If you bring in lots of mystics, obviously Titania will become a bit of a problem. But I always think fighting her isn't that difficult, really. She's got the indestructible and the unstoppable, but you wait that out for a couple seconds and you should be good to go. Remember, with regular Storm, her special 2 is easier to dex than her special 1, and with Storm Pyramid X, keep her to her special 1, because on her special 2, she will go unblockable. So that is the 3... that's sort of the paths. Let's talk a bit more now about the bosses and who would be best to counter each one. I don't think the bosses on here are that easy, especially these 3 in particular. I think there are definitely easier bosses in 8.3. So we'll start with Wong. So the keys to this is just keep Wong to an SP1. Try and bring in a slow champ or a champ who have a lot of power control, because it is, a big Wong that can gain power quite easily, and with those annoying heavies, which he, given heavy bias 4 there, is more likely to throw. He will go unstoppable. He's got, if the attacker uses the same special attack twice in a row, as last used by Wong, it will do 50% damage. So just try and keep him to his SP1s, and you throw all your SP2s. When he gains an unblockable, unstoppable, indestructible power gain or evade, or when you do, he gains the same buff. So be careful if you're bringing in champs who get a lot of those buffs, because it will mean that Wong gets them as well. Duke, that allows you to just do a bit more damage by alternating your light or medium combo enders. And then again, he's immune to the effects of Nullify, Stagger, Fate Seal. So I think in this one, it's really about trying to use, as I said, slow champs or champs with power control to keep Wong to that SP1. It is a very long and annoying fight. And I'm pretty sure he can be a big old pain. What I will say is good counters for him. Human Torch is a good counter, given that he's just absolutely shreds Mystics. I think She-Hulk was really good for this. I remember taking her in. Shang-Chi I bought in because of the Unstoppable, and because his special 2 is such a big hit. I was able to keep Wong to his SP1 and then throw my SP2 after quite a lot of Chi charges, and that did a ton of damage. Void works nicely, and so does Doctor Doom, both for the power control element, and Spider-Ham just because it keeps him throwing those Spider-Ham and like Spider-Man. Those type of champions keep Wong throwing his specials quite quickly. A Scorpion is also quite useful. So that Wong, more of a big Wong. The nodes on there aren't too big an issue. Just keep an eye on the last special he used so that you don't use the same one. When we go across now to Misty Knight, probably a little bit more difficult because I find her a bit annoying. Again, keep her to her SP1. So when inflicting when you inflict her with a damage and debuff, you have a 60% chance per damage and debuff to gain a true accuracy. That basically will stop her from evade. That's really useful because she's got 60% evade and auto block, and it gives her power when she either evades or auto blocks. So you want to either bring in champs who have a true strike or can't be evaded or auto blocked. You know, there you're looking at again champions who go unblockable quite a lot. Venom can be useful if she, but only sort of in the latter half of the fight. You've got quite a few options. I think I'm trying to think of other champs who are who can't be auto blocked. I guess Hercules can be quite useful for this, but she will still evade. So really it's just about inflicting her with a lot of damaging debuffs. If you nullify Stagger or Fate Seal, you do get 200% direct damage done to you. That's even if you bring an arm break in champ and she gets an armor up. So I would be really cautious with that. Really, again, given that it's a skilled champ, I'd say a mutant champion like a Kitty Pryde putting on those damaging debuffs, the Incinerates or Bishop or Storm. Apocalypse can be useful. And I guess Negasonic Teenage Warhead can be good. A lot of those champs who have damage and debuffs just to stop her from evading and auto blocking, keep your true accuracy up, and then this fight isn't actually that big of an issue as long as you have those champs who are inflicting debuffs. Somebody like Mr. Sinister is also really nice. Archangel can work because he's got those damage and debuffs on his kit. It just does mean that you have to parry quite a lot, which can be a little bit annoying because you can take a bit more damage there. So finally, we'll talk about Thing. And then that will do it for the video. So this Thing is probably one of the harder ones because it is a big thing. But when you look at the boss, look, there he's a 7-star without protection. So one of probably the only bosses in all of Act 8 to not have his awakened ability. So that does help you out a lot. Looking at the nodes he's got, he receives a permanent stun shield. While it's active, he can't be stunned. Obviously, every time a stun is attempted, you're instead stunned, but then will go into cooldown for 8 seconds if he's inflicted with poison or incinerate. So you can bring in a champ who inflicts poison or incinerate onto him, or just don't bother trying to stun him. If you intercept, you 200% increased attack, and it's that annoying calcify node where every time he activates a special, 2 petrified debuffs are put on you. So obviously if he's constantly throwing them, any sort of willpower healing that you're doing will be reversed, and any sort of regen will be undone as well. It's a big thing, basically. Valkyrie's really nice for this fight. Obviously, she's a great counter for him. Fury can work. You can bring in champs who will put poison and just watch his rock stacks when they're at 15. I would probably say go with like your normal Thing counter who you prefer to use. Like me personally, obviously I use Shang-Chi for the Thing a lot, so that's who I went with. But whoever you usually use for Thing, I would just bring them in. Black Cat is very good at this fight. I think I've seen an MSD video of her doing of him doing this fight really quick. So it can be done there. So again, 8.3.4, that's the full guide. Not too tricky a path, a couple difficult bosses with the Wong and the thing there, but other than that, I do think you guys will be okay. Hopefully this has helped you out. Again, as stated at the start of the video, if it has, please leave a like and subscribe and let me know where you are in your Act 3 100% or Act 8 100% goal, and I'll see you in 8.3.5. Thank you guys so much for watching. Goodbye.